Hey, ooh, what is up, YouTube? Disregard the thing in the lower right half, whatever the fuck of the screen, and whatever text is up here in the top. It must be the shadow government. And today, I'm gonna do this next video. I did the first video on the anime T, and well, without further ado, and rehashing what she said. Apparently, she's talking about tropes in anime that, in my opinion, don't need to go anywhere because anime is incredibly popular despite these goofy little things. That, by the way, I don't agree with either, but I mean, should still be there if they're important. But we're gonna move on to the next video. This has 148,000 likes. Disregard the sound in the background. It is probably my fan. I am burning the hell up, like always. And let's get it started. This isn't going to be edited. As always, I'm doing this raw.
In the term good girl, you might already think of a few anime protagonists that fit the bill. A caring to a fault, hopelessly klutzy, sweet girl who can often be self-sacrificing. And because of these traits, they always end up getting the popular or main boy's attention in the end. These character types can come off to many as idealistic and at times annoying. Some even believe that the reason many shoujo series don't get adapted into anime anymore is due to most protagonists of those series being naive girls that are no longer relatable or ideal in today's climate. After all, it's 2023, and independent girls and women who know how to navigate the world and are capable of breaking through any glass ceiling are the ideal main characters.
Well, no. Again, personality and ability doesn't aren't entirely mutually exclusive. You can be a good person and still achieve, like, you know, being alone and making it, or you could be a bad person and the same thing. I mean, I don't understand why the good girl trope thing dilemma is again bad. I mean, again, it's as rehash. It is anime is for adolescent men, and this is clearly the type of things they enjoy. But
Girls want to be empowered, not told to fit the quiet, obedient mold that has been shoved down our throats for generations.
no, don't start talking about gravity of My Hero Academia. She's bae. Well, she's not as bae as what's the bunny girl's name? The bunny woman with the tail. But she's still a good character. I mean, and being the good girl doesn't really change that. I mean, you see her character arc along with other characters throughout the anime, and it's like watching their whole journey. And I mean, she's still self-confident despite being the good girl. So okay.
And to that point, there are plenty of characters that fit this type in action and fantasy series. But when it comes to series that are meant to reflect real life, like slice of life or drama series, we tend to only get the classic, quiet, caring good girls, especially.
Okay, well, no, slice of life isn't supposed to fit real life because, as rehashed, it is fantasy. It is not real. It is over exaggerated, which is the point of anime. I mean, just because they're supposed to portray real human emotion doesn't mean they're supposed to be real life. It's like, why would I watch anime just to watch real life? If I want real life, I can just step the fuck outside.
In shoujo series. While I think that criticisms can and should be made for many examples of how girls are often portrayed in anime, I think there's an aspect to the good girl dilemma in particular that gets overlooked. Something that tends to be forgotten even when talking about just representation and storytelling as a whole.
No, it's not forgotten. It's people don't care.
Welcome, anime friends. If you're new here, hi, my name is Phoenix, and today we'll be deconstructing the good girls often seen in shoujo romance to determine if their existence and persistence in stories is actually as bad as some would argue. Breaking down 3 anime girls who kind of flip the idea of what a good.
But who's arguing? Like, okay, maybe if you're an anime tourist, which is someone who just glances into it and you see these things, and instead of trying to immerse yourself, you just trying to poke holes and issues with the anime. I mean, maybe you'll have these concessions, but I mean, most people who watch anime don't really care. I mean, you watch it just to turn your fucking brain off and enjoy it. I mean, I sure hope I don't stop every 5 goddamn seconds.
Girl is on its head. Before you begin, there's one rule you must follow. Make sure to grab your cup because it's time to spill the anime tea series. And though there are plenty of girls who embody this type of character, I think that these three in particular are a perfect mix of the essence of good girlness, and they do a good job at showing how dynamic the trope of being a good girl can actually be if used correctly. So let's start with the quiet girl who is often mistaken for a ghost, Sawako Kuronuma. This might be the least known series on the list, but arguably still one of the most impactful. In Kimi ni Todoke From Me to You, a quiet girl who happens to resemble a popular horror icon of the 2000s tries to make friends. But it's not until a boy oblivious to the rumors helps to encourage her to express herself that she finally starts to make true connections. The idea of the good, quiet, submissive girl who is also attractive and learns to overcome misunderstandings and miscommunications through the help of, a nice, beautiful, popular boy is not new to anime. I mean, even if you look at some recent series that came out.
I mean, that just seems wholesome as fuck. Like, I've never watched this anime, but I'm like, I'd see, if I was to see it, the first thing that would come to mind was, oh hey, that's pretty wholesome. Why is that a problem? What's the issue with that? I mean,
Throughout this year, there's still series that follow this trope. In Kimi ni Todoke, Sawako, aka Sadako, is just another shy girl who seems to get attention because she's quiet and also pretty. Or at least that's what the Netflix drama adaptation would have you believe. But in actual
no, if it's a Netflix adaptation, just get rid of it. I don't give a shit. It could be better. It could be, well, I doubt it's better, but if it could be good, I don't care. It's Netflix. Yeah, attack Netflix. Like, why attack anime? Why attack something that's popular? And I mean, I understand why. You know you're going to get clicks, which is why you're making the videos. I mean, you can believe 100% of what you're saying, and that's fine. But again, I'm just looking at the views, and if we look at the comment section, you got 148k views, but only 8k likes. I'm gonna help you out there, because see, I'm a good person. I mean, I don't even need to turn the extension for this on to know that maybe some people don't agree with that. I'm not even gonna look at the comments. Okay, I'm looking at the comments now. It will never not make me sad that okay. Never mind. It's just a bunch of gibberish job.
If you've read the manga or watched the anime, you would know that Sawako is a
I don't read manga. I don't read.
Humorous, awkward, and relentlessly optimistic character, and that makes each attempt at her communicating both endearing and really encouraging. But a key part of understanding Sawako's character is actually in her internal dialogue. If the audience never got into Sawako's head and heard what she was thinking about herself, about others, and how she was processing the world, it might be a lot harder to really relate or understand her.
No, because again, most people also go through this. Like, most people are quiet in schools and they completely understand, and you don't need an internal monologue just to get that across, in my opinion. Now, in anime, they do it perfectly, so again, in this anime, I don't think it, again, should go anywhere, but
like another character from another series, which I have famously bashed on, where the main character, titular character, faces a similar struggle as Sawako, arguably, but because we don't understand what's going on in her mind or hear how she is feeling from her own words, it can often feel like she's more of an object to be looked at and thought of as cute rather than a real person with her own struggles. But I digress. I did a whole video on her, so you can check that out later. But when it comes to Sawako, you get her story straight from the horse's mouth. Though painstakingly slow and even frustrating at times, Sawako and her attempts to reach others is surprisingly really encouraging. Mainly because it's easy to understand that Sawako's motive is a deep need to have people understand her, or for her to understand others. Something I'm sure that many an awkward person can relate to, including myself. Is there anything
Absolutely. So again, you're talking about we need to talk about shoujo girl shoujo again. I don't know what that is, and the first thing you're getting into is the cute girl trope, and I'm like, okay, what's the problem with this? I mean,
inherently wrong with portraying an awkward girl who struggles with social cues, trying to understand the complicated world of high school? No, not really. I think it's great actually. Is it a little idealistic to have the beautiful popular boy give her all the attention because of her awkwardness? Yeah, it is a bit. And again,
no, it's not. Again, it's fantasy. I think it's fine. I mean, would the story be any different if it was another loser? Like, shy guy, I was about to say loser. Shy guy doing it? Maybe. If it was a creepy guy, or like, what type of guy would you interject into this to make it less quote unquote idealistic? I mean, isn't that the point of anime? To be idealistic? Like, that's the reason why anime is actually able to create things nowadays, because they're idealistic, quote unquote. Like, what does that even mean? Idealistic. Idealistic.
again, clearly it's a popular dynamic because it's in everything. It's in shoujo, it's in seinen, it's even in shonen series. Sawako is every stereotype.
I mean, it's in most older comic books and movies. I mean, it's not anything new. I mean, it can be done different, but it fits the same idea.
Type the good girl is known for. Yet she doesn't feel like a character simply made to be a caricature of how girls should behave, unlike in other certain series, which I will talk about later. And though Sawako doesn't completely subvert the idea of how good girls are portrayed, like I believe the next few examples will, she still proves that having an honest, likable lead provides relatability to all the awkward girls out there just trying to fit in, is something that's still really important. Hence why I made a whole video about Sawako and her story and her characters. Continuing with our list of good girls, is probably the most recognizable character on this list. Fruits Basket is undoubtedly the most popular shoujo romance series, especially in the West. On the surface, Fruits Basket seems to be a simple story about a girl who tries to save a family who happen to all turn into zodiac animals. I mean, there's a lot to discuss about Fruits Basket in general and its reliance on traumatic stories, endless casts of furry characters, and deep lessons about the complexities of familial relationships. But today we're going to be focusing in on arguably the most divisive character in the series, Toru Honda. I say divisive because there seems to be a major division among fans about how likable Toru as a character actually is. Because
Yeah, I don't usually get into anime debates, but I don't usually get into those type of debates. I just usually tend to think about the anime as a whole and the idea, because at least the way I see it is anime is like a conversation between you and the artist. I mean, if say for example, Overlord, like, I love Overlord to death, and I'm gonna keep watching it. But the problem with Overlord is it beats you over the head with the same goddamn thing. It's like overpowered protagonist, overpowered protagonist, overpowered protagonist. Which in the first and second and maybe the third season was fine, at least for me. But then again, spoilers. We're getting to the fourth season, and it's still overpowered protagonist, and it's like, okay, we get it. Like, you're overpowered. And again, I don't really want to get into that too much, but I mean, again, that's the point of anime, at least in my opinion, is it's a conversation between you and the artist. And if the artist can get the point across, that's a good thing. I mean, you don't need to nitpick every single aspect of the anime. You're just supposed to be entertained.
Because of her good girl nature, she is often seen as too idealistic, which tends to make people dislike her, or see her as too pure, which sometimes makes people want to protect her. But regardless of how you might feel about her, I'm going to point some things out about her character that are kind of hidden through the series that may make you see her in a different light. If you're not really paying attention to her, it's easy to miss the small aspects of her personality that reveal her own struggles, often hidden behind the care she shows towards the Soma family. The truth is, Toru seems to harbor unhappiness with herself and how she acts for almost the entirety of the series. In order to understand why, we need to start with the most traumatic part of all Fruits Basket characters, their childhood. Toru's version of being the good girl, the good child even, is by learning to take on her father's mannerisms at a young age. Even though she really barely knew him, she does so in order to keep her mother happy after his passing. Continuing on with this idea of not wanting to be a burden, Toru tries to go to live on her own so as not to displace her grandfather and her relatives after her mother's passing. And when she does accept Shigure's offer to live with them, she still offers to cook and clean and, do her part to earn her stay while she's there. As she gets to know each of the Somas, she takes the time to hear their stories and be a shoulder to lean on. All of which might make you think she's an idealistic representation of the perfect girl, unable to be replicated in her never-ending acts of kindness. Well,
yeah. That seems like a decent story. See, I haven't even watched it. Now I kind of do because, tragic characters make for good characters. The problem nowadays is, they don't want to make good female characters in movies anymore, which I think is the problem. It's like they have it in their head and by committee what a strong female character is, but it just doesn't relate to, the consumer base. And that's also another problem, is the massive disconnect between the people putting out the product, the people putting out the movies or the shows, and the fan base. And it just keeps growing bigger and bigger and bigger. Originally, the fans were the ones putting food on the fucking table. Apparently, that's not the case anymore. And we tried telling them this, but then they just want to put labels on you, call you a sexist or a racist or a whatever is, and it's like, sure, fine, but what about my argument? They're like, oh, well, we don't have to argue with you because you're sexist. It's like, that's just not something that makes sense to me.
Actuality, Toru's reasoning for all this.
And again, her backstory seems like she's an interesting character. Just off that alone, there's nothing wrong with this.
It actually seems to be pretty selfish, because hiding underneath her calm, loving exterior is this fear of abandonment and being left alone. Like her father left her and her mother, like her mother left her. There's an unspoken fear of not.
I think most normal human beings kind of feel this. Like, is it selfish if every human being feels this way? Or at least inside. I don't know. I'm not the one psychoanalyzing people or being an armchair psychologist, but maybe it is selfish, but where's the issue? I think people are allowed to be a little bit selfish, just not like out loud.
Not only death, but just being alone that really plagues her existence. Being positive and choosing good is how she seems to cope with the loss and the loneliness. It takes all 3 seasons of the anime to really understand the complexities of her character, or at least that's what I thought while watching the series. But it makes the ending of the series, which allows Toru herself to choose what she wants for her own happiness, and also have that be the one thing that ultimately helps her achieve her goal, that much more satisfying. Most importantly, her characteristics are seen as both a flaw and a strength, which seems to truly capture the nuance of what being good actually means. That's more.
Oh yeah, that's how most characters that you look at, or most protagonists that you look at are. They have their sets of flaws, they have their sets of, strengths, and all that comes together to create the character. People. Lucy, you okay? So that's my dog. Most people in reality are like this. The problem is people let differences and people let, flaws burn bridges, and that's just not something I could really understand. Well, so, I mean, if you're trying to portray that in anime, again, you need the over exaggeration, but I think it portrays it better than most, you know, shows that come out nowadays, at least from the West.
More than just a character's archetype or an
What the
ideal for
fuck
girls
was
to
that?
abide by. It can also be a survival tactic and a way of finding your place in a world that often leaves you alone and hopeless. It's an outlook on life that could save you. I can honestly spend days breaking down the geniusness of Fruits Basket and their characters and their trauma and just everything
I mean, you say it yourself. You like the anime, so what is the issue? I just don't understand. It's like, okay, you're attacking things that are popular. Like, what people want to hear is, again, you're the anime T, and that's the point. I mean, there's a Western anime called, I can't even remember the goddamn name. Okay, no, this is gonna fucking bother me. No, we're stopping this right now. Google, don't show anything that other than titties. Ooh, is this gonna get me blasted? Am I gonna have to learn editing? Y'all don't need to know the stuff I look at on Google. Western. Did that show anything? Western anime. What the fuck was it called? We're doing this. Boon. Okay, I guess technically, the Boondocks is a Western What? The. I think it's called like. I don't know. I lost it. But whatever. There was a Western anime. Shockingly, it was trash. And if you look at the type of people that wrote the anime, you can tell just by looking at the people who created it what all it talked about and what all was in it. And I think I'm probably doing you a favor for not, for not knowing what it is, but I don't know. Probably figure out. So the point is, I don't know what the point I was getting at.
show makes me feel. But I have to move on and cover what I consider to be one of the most interesting, dynamic, and kind of underrated protagonists in a really popular series that people actually love. Especially since this particular series has gained more attention in the past few years because of its punk rock femme fatale lead, Nana. And since both characters share the same name, I'm going to be calling main character Nana Hachi, which is her nickname, and then the punk rock best friend Nana. So, unlike the other characters that I described on this list, Hachi's story seems to be more of a cautionary tale rather than a story of someone who you might initially look up to. The complexities of her character are also revealed through her literary foil, her best friend, Nana. Hachi, just like many a shoujo romance lead, is a hopelessly optimistic and naive girl who tries to start a new life in Tokyo. On the way to Tokyo, she sits next to a beautiful rock star who also happens to share the same name, Nana, and they end up becoming fast friends. The tragedy of Hachi's character isn't that she's an orphan or is hopelessly awkward. She's actually neither. It's simply that she happens to be a hopeless romantic. This gets her into situations with men that end up not turning out very well at all. And it's Hachi finding herself in these situations.
I mean, yeah, unfortunately that could happen in anime. I mean, take Naruto, for instance. I only watched first couple seasons of it, but you have the protagonist, Naruto, who likes Sakura, but all she does is, give him shit, and Sakura likes Sasuke, which is the other protagonists that are with him, and you as the viewer, you as the adolescent male viewer, is just like, oh, this is painful, Sakura, you idiot. I mean, she's not meant to be a likable character, but, throughout the anime, you start liking her, and you could blame Naruto for this, but he also has a tragic backstory, which makes him, the type of character he is. So, I mean, being the hopeless romantic isn't a bad idea. Again, if told correctly, it makes for a good story.
Situations constantly that can be really infuriating to an audience just because of the sheer number of times that
I mean, yeah, that's the point. You're supposed to be infuriated. Like, it's supposed to hit you emotionally and be like, oh, that's kind of cringe. I mean, it's trying to tell a story. I mean, that's the point.
Hachi makes the same or similar mistakes over and over and over again, which kind of makes it seem like she never learns her lesson, and ultimately what I believe is what keeps her in the shadow of her punk rock BFF. The point is, the differences between the two girls really highlights Hachi's ineptitudes. While Nana is pursuing her dream, is in a committed relationship, and is self-assured in every aspect of her life, Hachi flounders between relationships and struggles to find out her own path in life. The series itself seems to put Nana on a pedestal as a woman to look up to and aspire to be. A hard-working, confident girl who puts her needs first. Not to say that Nana doesn't have her own struggles to overcome, like dating a famous guitarist and trying to propel her own career without, his help, but like I discussed at the beginning of the video, she is an example of a positive view of women that people more want to see.
A positive view of women. Who on earth talks like this? Like, again, no one's looking at her that watch anime probably and be like, oh, this is a positive view of women. This is good. This is very good. It's like, does anyone who watch anime nowadays think like that towards characters? Or do they just like, oh, hey, this character's pretty cool. This character is also pretty cool. Interesting story and all. I mean, again, back to the whole My Hero Academia point. I mean, there are plenty of quote-unquote good depictions of women, but there's also, that they're in various types. Like, they're not, what Marvel does, which every single woman has to be portrayed a certain way, but the men can be whatever way you want. Mostly the bad guys, but mostly incompetent. I mean, I'm just pointing the trope out. I mean, if you don't get mad at me, I mean, sure, but I'm the messenger here. But anime seems to do the thing where, okay, you have good women and you have bad women, you have good men and bad men. It portrays human beings as human beings and not as caricatures with no personality that you the audience need to interject yourself into, need to fill up that character.
Unlike Toru in Fruits Basket, whose nature can be seen as both a strength and a weakness, Hachi's characteristics are almost entirely a weakness, and she doesn't seem to have many strengths at all, especially because Hachi's weaknesses and mistakes take her to some pretty dark places, showing how many men in the series use Hachi's naivete and idealism against her, which can be frustrating because, again, even when she realizes what's happening and how these men are using her, she still goes along with it.
I mean, again, that's just how human beings act. I mean, it's unfortunate, but, people do not respect weakness. So if you cannot stand up to yourself, nobody else will. So, I mean, it's like that substitute teacher that doesn't do anything when the class acts up. The class is just going to keep acting up. It's just, that's how human beings are. And you can't shame this out of people. Certain ideologies tried. Newsflash, it never worked. You can't legislate this out of human beings. So, in my opinion, if you're trying to portray this outwards and try making it, subject to reality, the best thing is to adapt. Not, what I'm saying?
But as we see of her character throughout the series, it's something that she has learned from the many years of dating men, sometimes many years older than her, who don't actually love her. And it's a sad reminder to young girls who may be in similar situations, who lack self-worth and confidence because of the situations they are coerced into, possibly at a young age, like Hachi was, making them think that they're not worthy unless they give everything they have. It seems like a really honest look at what being the good girl can actually mean, especially the detrimental side of it all, addressing the dangers of people who prey and rely on good girls' kindness, weakness, obedience, and so on. It's in stories like these that make me realize that if we didn't have the precedent of good girls shown in other, stories and even other mediums as something that is commonplace, we probably wouldn't have gotten a series like this that was able to put both a character that, women have always wanted to be or aspire to be, someone who puts her goals first, is in a great relationship, and, is a confident, beautiful character, right beside a girl who kind of embodies all these young girls who are in similar situations where they want to be in.
But she doesn't embody all the young girls in a similar situation. She is a character of her own. I mean, I think other young girls are individuals and have their own, type of story. It's not that never the same for each individual person. Again, you know, putting this in reality together, which I don't think should happen, but, I'm just arguing from your point, like where you're coming from. I mean, everyone has their own completely different, lifestyle or completely different issues and completely different flaws. And again, in life, sometimes, people just keep failing. And I think that's okay. I think that's good for building character, and being a character. I think that's, it sucks what's happening to her. Again, I never watched it, but I mean, sometimes you just have those type of people, and having it portrayed in an anime, again, I don't know if this is popular or not, but having it portrayed is fine.
Love it, and they want to give their all because they've seen this in media, because they've seen it in the other women and people in their lives, and then that ends up backfiring against them. Having these two really different.
No, I don't think people look at this anime like it's reality. I think people look at a character and it's like, that's kind of what sucks that's happening to her, and like as you're watching, you're rooting for the character, which is the point. You're trying to root for her, and she's failing. It's like that's fine. I don't think people look at this as like, oh well, if other girls look at this and keep looking at this, they're going to think the same way. That's not how human beings act. That's just not how people act, and especially people who, again, watch anime to be entertained.
Different forces in the same series really emphasizes both struggles of both girls in a way I've yet to see in any other series. Like, Aizawa just knows how to write some really incredibly in-depth characters who feel so honest and realistic.
Yeah.
Though I understand why good girls in anime are often not liked, especially when at times it seems validate this ideal that girls have to be quiet, obedient, and all other.
No, again, that's not the case. I need to stop pausing to input my opinion, but again, I don't think it's on the earnest of the artist to try portraying people in a specific light. I think the earnest is on the people watching themselves to sort of, portray themselves in their own individualistic light. You know what I'm saying? I don't think, if you have the media like that portrays a certain women a certain way, I don't think women look at that and be like, oh, that's how I'm supposed to act. Like, no, homie. Maybe when you're like 3, you want to be Batman, but once you become like 11 years old or 12, reality hits you in the fucking head and be like, that's never gonna happen. And if you have parents, they'll tell you, the point of like Marvel comics or superhero comics isn't that, be like the characters, because you're never going to. I mean, the point is to entertain you. At least that was the initial idea, pre-2016. Now, if you portray a woman in a bad way, or any type of characteristic, rather it be African American, a woman, or a trans person in a specific light, people think, oh, that is on the earnest of the artist that think this is how people are, and that's just not how it is.
Other things in order to be liked. And on a deeper level, especially when specifically for Asian women, it continues to promote the idea of submissiveness often shown of their characters in media, which is a whole other deep dive that I don't think I even have the right to do.
I mean, neither of us have the right to do that. Like, not even other Asian women. I mean, people can speak for themselves. Like, individuals can speak for themselves. They don't need, like, they don't. I mean, no one elected the Asian woman of the planet to speak for all Asian women. Just like no one elected the man of the planet to speak for all men. I mean, individuals can speak for themselves.
I think it's important to remember that representation comes in many different forms.
And what the hell's with representation? I mean, you know, like the idea is, oh, if you have a woman that has these flaws as a representative of all women, that's not what people think when they watch these. It's what ideologues think when they're trying to shove an ideology down your throat. It's what they think, because this is their worldview, and they think if they think this way, other people think this way. Therefore, I need to shove this ideology down your throat. I mean, and it goes far beyond, you know, what's between your legs or what your skin color is. I mean, someone who's poor can, you know, relate to, say, someone like Luke Cage. Like some poor white guy off in the trailer park can relate to someone like Luke Cage, or someone born in the ghetto, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the skin color. It has everything to do with experience. You know, people can empathize regardless of what's between your legs or what skin color you are. That's just how human beings act.
And can be seen as more of a spectrum rather than a hard division. We can start with the good, quiet girls at one end and the loud, assertive girls at the other, and in between them is a whole slew of various diverse personalities. Even with these...
Okay, so you agree with this yourself, but for some reason you're saying that, oh, if all women see, you know, the submissive, quiet girl, that's how they think they're going to act. So you agree with kind of what I'm trying to say. You literally just said that, but I don't know.
Two kind of hard endpoints that we see in media, I think still that shoujo series are the ones who are most able to show the complexity.
Motherfucker, I wish I was the blue-haired girl when I seen fucking Sailor Moon when I was 6 years old, okay? It has absolutely nothing to do with what the fuck was between our legs. And she was, you know, I assume she was older than me. Now, apparently all these girls are underage, which, I mean, I was 6. But now that I'm old, it's like, you know, better waifus exist in media. You know, you got Bayonetta, Tomb Raider, you know, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Cortana from Halo. I mean, other waifus exist. But I wanted to be this girl when I was young because I thought she was fucking cool. And, hey, come at me. Come at me.
Of a girl's personalities in a really diverse way, kind of more than any other demographic. But I will say that even some shonen series clearly take a lot of inspiration from shoujo series, despite how good or bad their representation might be.
Slaps! Demon Slayer, goddamn slaps. I like the lightning guy, he's cool.
Good, quiet girl who can also kick butt is kind of a main theme amongst, you know, anime characters. Anyway.
I mean, again, they're different characters with different characteristics. I mean, this has always existed. So it is not really anything you gotta point out.
Despite how much I and others criticize the nature of girls in anime, I think it's also important.
No, it's not many people. I need you to understand. Many people don't do this. It is a few select people with an ideological twist that for some reason want to censor anime. They come between you and what you like, because I assume you like anime, and I'm trying not to get too damn political, but it's impossible because there is a well, actually, a couple of specific ideologies that find anime abhorrent and want to do something about it. And they try and try again, but people are going around them because, believe it or not, anime is, popular regardless of what they try to do. So, yeah, I mean,
Point out how diverse the types of characters are in terms of relatability and not in anime and manga seem to be. And this may be because many manga creators,
what?
often get a chance to tell their own stories through their works. Unfortunately, unlike the mess that's going on with the Writers Guild right now and how streaming services are kind of moving towards these stories that only capture people's attention and watch time rather than investing in writers and creators and unique stories that mean something.
Well, I mean, because that's not, you can't do that in the West, is the problem. Like, you're forced to churn out so many pieces just to compete. And again, you're not allowed to write specific groups in a specific light, but you can write other groups in whatever light you want. I mean, you can't write, in-depth characters anymore. At least not in the West, but in anime they can because it's extremely popular amongst their Western audience, and I think that's the problem with Western media, is because you are shackled. You absolutely have to write certain characters of certain characteristics this way, in a specific way, and tell a specific story, and it's just there's no, what's the word I'm looking for? There's no drive to do that.
It seems, from an outsider perspective, that we are getting more individual stories told through mangaka and manga specifically that seem to be straight from like an individual's own creativity. Though I'm not completely naive to, manga and anime and saying that it's like above, Western storytelling, because
No. I'll say it for you. It is. It is absolutely above. At least nowadays, it is absolutely above Western media. Just period. Just end of discussion. Like, you see what the fuck they're coming out with on Netflix, and on Disney. It absolutely is. I will say it for you.
I don't think that it is. Also, still, even in manga and anime, there are companies behind every story who publish and commercialize it and try to get it pushed out to people.
Well, yeah, and these companies, unlike Western media, want to make money. I mean, it's an industry, and it's an industry catered to the West because it's its greatest seller. It's its consumers is in the West, which boggles my mind why Western, most popular Western companies don't want to do this anymore. It's like they become so infallible and so goddamn great that it's like they don't need to cater to the customer anymore. All they need to do is cater to shareholders and investors, which boggles my goddamn mind. I mean, you can have both. You can have ideology, you can have wokeness, you can have all that, and still make money. But for some reason, they don't want to do that.
Hence,
I don't understand why.
Subgenres that show up every season.
What is this goofy ass anime? I keep getting recommended this. I'm like, again, I don't watch esoteric stuff, but
like several shows about the same subgenre. Like, does no one get tired of this? I don't understand. But anyway.
Oh, hold on, I kind of missed the point.
To be straight from like an individual's own creativity. Though I'm not completely naive to, manga and anime and saying that it's like above, Western storytelling, because I don't think that it is. Also, still, even in manga and anime, there are companies behind every story who publish and commercialize it and try to get it pushed out to people. Hence, why we get certain subgenres that show up every season that have like several shows about the same subgenre. Like, does no one get tired of this? I don't understand.
No, you're speaking of isekais, and again, the people here get tired of superhero movies. Like before, it was sci-fi shows, and like Battlestar Galactica, Stargate. I mean, Star Wars was the popular one, but then you had Firefly. I mean, at first people got tired of sci-fi, and now people are tired of like superhero shows. But the weird thing about manga or anime and isekais is you can have like 5 isekais, like because that's obviously the subgenre you're talking about with this. You can have 5 isekais that are completely different from each other. The only thing they share is a subgenre, and well, the idea. Like it's what makes Overlord, which I guess is considered an isekai, different from ReZero, which is different from Jobless Reincarnation, which is different from the time I died and reincarnated as a slime. Like they're all isekais, but they're completely different. And what makes them completely different is the story and how it is told.
Man. But anyway.
So I mean, again, no one's tired of it because they're all different. People are tired of superhero shows in the West because at one point they were different. Now they're all just cookie cutter.
Feeling that at the heart of many relatable, especially stories, that we can feel like the creators' own emotions and own experiences put into their works and their characters, making many of these stories, especially the slice of life ones, feel deeply personal. Especially since, being a girl is just complicated. No matter what life stage you're at, it's just a complex state of being.
I mean, being a guy is too. I mean, being, period, is a complex state of being. Being twice. I mean, what's your point? I mean, women have different complications than men, and people of whatever gender they decide to go with is again they have their complete different problems too and issues and successes. I just don't understand why you're taking this one route. Just kind of boggles my mind here.
And having characters and stories that represent that in a multitude of different and diverse ways that are also funny and cute and heartwarming can really be therapeutic at times and help us even understand ourselves even more.
I mean, you want to hear any argument from me there? I 100% agree with you.
And if I could get a little personal, I think these characters in particular help me understand parts of myself that I really struggled with for a long time. If you haven't noticed, I'm black. If you're just figuring this out, surprise, But
really? No,
but I say that to say that I don't often look for characters who both, look and act like me in anime in particular, because, it's anime, it's Japanese.
I mean, so you agree with me on that point, that people can sympathize, people can empathize with characters that, again, do not share what's between their legs or do not share their melanin count. And, I mean, okay, I agree. Yeah, that's the point of media. That is the point of entertainment. We've been doing this for thousands of years,
Japanese media, even though they draw white people all the time, I don't usually see.
They draw Asian people. What? Hold on. What?
To say that I don't often look for characters who both, look and act like me in anime in particular, because, it's anime, it's Japanese media, even though they draw white people all the time.
They draw Asian people all the time. I mean, maybe if you want to get into like Attack on Titan, which is again they're trying to portray something similar to like a European like fictional world, but they don't draw white people all the time. They draw Asian people all the time. It's anime from Japan. Now, so a couple of animes have, African Americans, and I think that's fine, but, I mean, the point, at least to me, is they're it's still anime. They're trying to portray their culture to the rest of the world, and again, it would be this way in Bollywood. Like Bollywood's from India, will draw a lot of Indian people. You know, in America, I mean, there's a lot of white people, and they draw a lot of white people and African Americans, and I think that's fine. So I don't really understand what you're getting at here.
I don't usually see good representations of people who look like me. I do often find myself identifying or relating to the good girls of series like the ones I mentioned. They just have an aspect of them that feels so personal to like my own struggles and things that I've had to overcome or think through or do in my life. I've been the
I mean, yeah, I believe most people who watch anime agree with you there. I mean, despite not being Asian, we see ourselves in anime, certain characters in anime, depending on, their struggles, their life choices, their successes. I mean, that's the point. It's not supposed to be watered down to, I'm this skin color, therefore if I do not see someone with this exact same skin color, I just absolutely cannot relate whatsoever. I mean, that's, at least, I believe most people don't think like that, but you have a specific ideology that's trying to shove that down your throat, and that, to me, just doesn't make any sense, because, again, things like that is divisive by nature. The point of anime is to entertain you.
awkward quiet girl that has caused people to distance themselves from me, like in Sawako's story. I've forced myself to be the kind, quiet girl and try not to cause trouble for my family and friends, like Toru and Fruits Basket, and I've made decisions that kept me from people that I love because I thought it was the right thing to do, and I thought I was being responsible.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the Japanese culture. Like, the idea of their culture is to not stand out, not to be an inconvenience to others, to be overly polite. I mean, that's their culture. So most of the anime is going to portray that. Now, not everyone acts that way, clearly. Again, they're individuals, but most of the time the culture kind of shapes the person. I mean, in America, you're supposed to be outward. You're supposed to compete. You're supposed to maybe sometimes trample over the people that you work with. Because, again, that's our culture. And that's fine. Again, people need to adapt with the culture.
Like in Hachi's story from Nana. Not to say that any of these aspects are particularly good or right, but they are real. And they're real because they are expressed by real people who have either experienced or know someone who has experienced these types of events. They're made by creators who know the complexities of being good. How do you think of good girls being portrayed in anime and manga in particular, or if you even want to take it outside of that, just in media in general, and can you relate? Do you want to relate, or do you not? I want to give a quick thanks to everyone who participates in my
Okay, so yeah, I guess that's the end of it. I'm going to go over that last
or know
point.
someone who has experienced because I thought it was the right thing to do, and I thought I was being responsible. Like in Hachi's story from Nana. Not to say that any of these aspects are particularly good or right, but they are real. And they're real because they are expressed by real people who have either experienced or know someone who has experienced these types of events.
I mean, yeah, again, that's what anime tries doing. They try portraying real human emotion, and, it's made with the human mind in mind, the human understanding, human empathy, but it's still fiction. I mean, it's not meant to be overanalyzed, except by like a couple of goofballs on like Reddit, but it's just meant to entertain you. It's not meant to push cultural whatever the fuck, or push a cultural message like what Western media is trying to do nowadays. It's just meant to entertain. So I believe that's everything, and again, it's just, I usually don't do this. Half the time I don't even fuck with my YouTube channel, but sometimes I come across something that I just need to talk about, and again, I don't believe she thinks the way that, again, in a specific ideological stance, but it's like you have people of a specific ideological stance that's trying to, you know, get rid of it or trying to censor anime, one, but then if they can't censor it, they're just trying to get rid of it. And most people are just like, yeah, no, shut the hell up. We don't care. We're just going to watch it. And, okay, I'm watching anime in the comfort of my own home, and someone out there with a specific ideology cannot sleep at night. And I don't believe this person thinks that way, but there are people who do. And, you know, I just want to give my opinion. So, whatever. I'm done. I'm done. Have fun.